Ethan Cole lived alone on a small asteroid station that orbited a mining sector far away from any big city. His station was mostly made of old steel parts and humming engines, and the air always smelled like oil and warm circuits. He was an engineer by trade, fixing broken ships and trading spare parts for credits. Most days were quiet, too quiet. He often went to sleep to the sound of machines instead of voices. He had no friends nearby, no family left, and no one to talk to except his ship's outdated AI that only responded with robotic phrases. One evening, after a long day of fixing a cracked oxygen pump, he sat down with a bowl of reheated noodles and looked at his terminal. A message popped up on the station's trade network. It was an advertisement, bright and colorful, which felt strange on his dull gray screen. Registered alien companions available. Fully trained. Fully legal. Choose yours today. Ethan stared at it for a while without clicking. He had seen such ads before. Many people bought alien companions either for help or status, but he was not interested in owning anyone. The idea made him uncomfortable, but as he sat there alone, listening to nothing but the distant buzzing of the ventilation fans, he wondered if it would really be so wrong to have someone there, not to command, but to keep company. He ignored the ad that night, but it stayed in his mind like an echo. The next morning, he found himself opening the same page without thinking. There were profiles listed one after another. Different species. Different backgrounds. Some were strong, some were intelligent, some were described as cheerful. He scrolled through them without much emotion until one profile stopped him. Her name was Leora. She belonged to an aquatic race from a moon that had once been covered in vast oceans. Her skin was described as silver blue, slightly luminous. Her eyes were large and gentle, adapted for seeing in dim underwater environments. The information said her planet had been destroyed by radiation storms many years ago. Most of her kind had scattered into different colonies, some becoming refugees with no home to return to. Leora had volunteered for the companion program in exchange for food, water, and housing. She was listed as calm, patient, and skilled in maintaining energy systems. Ethan read her profile 3 times. He did not know why she caught his attention more than the others. Maybe it was the way her description sounded like she had lost everything, but still chose to move forward. He sat quietly, rubbing the back of his neck. He whispered to himself, I wouldn't treat her like a tool. I'd treat her like a guest. But still he hesitated. Buying someone, even legally, felt wrong. The system required a confirmation code to complete the purchase. Ethan typed the code, then deleted it. He stood up, walked around the room, sat back down, and typed it again. His hand hovered over the final button. He closed his eyes and pressed it. 2 days later, a small transport ship arrived at his docking ring. Ethan stood near the airlock door feeling strangely nervous, as if he were about to meet a stranger who might judge his entire life. The door slid open with a hiss, and 2 officials stepped forward, followed by a slender figure standing quietly behind them. Leora was taller than he expected, though her posture was humble. Her skin shimmered softly like moonlight on water. She wore a simple gray suit designed to keep moisture in her body. Her eyes were wide and observant, yet cautious. She carried a small metallic case, probably holding her few possessions. One of the officials handed Ethan a tablet. Sign here to confirm receipt. Ethan signed it, but felt a small knot in his stomach. The officials left quickly, leaving just the 2 of them in the hallway. The silence stretched awkwardly. Welcome, Ethan said, clearing his throat. I'm Ethan. You can make yourself comfortable. Leora nodded slowly, her voice soft and smooth. I understand. I will follow your commands. Ethan flinched slightly. No commands. Just be free. This is your home now, too. Leora studied his face, clearly unsure how to respond. She did not smile, but she seemed less stiff. He showed her to a room near his own. It had been empty for years, filled with storage crates and useless parts. Ethan had cleared it out the night before, adding a small bed and placing a humidity generator in the corner so she would not feel dry. This is for you, he said. She looked around, her eyes flickering across every detail. I do not require special treatment, she said calmly. It's not special treatment, Ethan replied. It's just respect. Leora did not respond, but she gently placed her metallic case on the bed and stood silently, as if waiting for further instruction. Do you need time alone? Ethan asked. She finally nodded. Yes, I would appreciate a moment to adjust. Ethan stepped out and closed the door softly behind him. He leaned against the wall, exhaling deeply. He wondered if he had already made things awkward. Maybe she thought he was strange. Maybe she preferred clear rules like other owners gave. He rubbed his eyes and decided to give her space for a while. Hours passed. Ethan worked in the engine room, tightening bolts and replacing filters. He half expected her to appear and ask what tasks she should do, but she did not. When he finally walked back toward the living area, he noticed Leora standing in front of the transparent observation window that looked out into space. She stood perfectly still, watching the stars with quiet awe. Ethan approached slowly. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Leora turned her head toward him. "I have seen many stars before," she replied. "But it feels different when one is not in a cage." Ethan's chest tightened. He understood then that even though she had signed up as a volunteer, she had likely been treated as property in one way or another many times before. "You're free here," he said softly. "You can walk in any room. You can ask for anything. If you want to leave someday, I won't stop you." Leora tilted her head slightly. "If I ask to leave, will you be angry?" "No," Ethan said firmly. "I'll be sad, maybe, but never angry." Leora turned back to the stars. She did not answer. That night, Ethan cooked dinner. He made roasted vegetables and a protein loaf. He placed a bowl of clear nutrient gel beside Leora's plate, unsure if it tasted acceptable. She sat at the table gracefully, hands folded. She watched him eat first, as if waiting for a signal. He took a bite and nodded encouragingly. She dipped a spoon into the gel and brought it to her lips. "Is it okay?" he asked. "It is functional," she replied. After a moment, she added softly, "Thank you for providing it." Ethan chuckled. "You don't have to sound so formal. You can talk casually." Leora considered that. "I do not know how to talk casually." "That's fine," Ethan said. "We'll figure it out." The next morning, Ethan went to the cargo bay to check fuel levels. To his surprise, Leora was already there, examining some loose wiring on the wall panel. "Oh, you don't have to work unless you want to," Ethan said quickly. Leora gently touched the exposed wire. "If I do not assist, I feel useless." "I prefer to help." Ethan scratched the back of his head. "All right, but just know you can say no to anything." She nodded. Together, they repaired the wiring. She was incredibly precise, her long fingers moving with care. At one point, she adjusted a connector in a way Ethan had never seen before. "Where did you learn that?" he asked. "My people used bioelectric grids underwater. The techniques are similar." Ethan smiled. "You're good." Leora blinked as if confused by the compliment. "Good?" "Yes," Ethan said. "Skilled, talented." She looked down, her silver cheeks glowing faintly. She said nothing, but her lips curved ever so slightly. Days passed, and their routine became smoother. Leora followed Ethan during his tasks, sometimes asking questions, sometimes staying silent. At first, she stayed distant, always keeping her movements quiet and careful, as if afraid she would disturb him. But gradually, she relaxed. She started giving suggestions during repairs. She sat closer at dinner. One evening, Ethan heard a soft sound echoing through the hallway. He followed it and found Leora humming while cleaning a metal panel. It was a gentle melody, calm and flowing like water. She stopped immediately when she noticed him. "Sorry," she said quickly. "I did not mean to make noise." "Don't stop," Ethan said. "It was nice." She hesitated, then continued humming softly. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, listening. He realized that sound was the first real sign that she felt safe. One night, as Ethan sat at his desk reviewing energy reports, Leora approached him. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Why did you buy me?" Ethan set down his tools and took a breath. "Loneliness," he answered honestly. "I was tired of being alone. But I didn't buy you to control you, I just didn't know how else to find someone to talk to." Leora stared at him, her large eyes reflecting the dim lights. "Do you feel less lonely now?" Ethan gave a small smile. "Yeah, I do." Leora stood silently for a moment, processing his words. Then, to his surprise, she placed her hand gently on the desk, close to his. It was the first time she had willingly moved closer without hesitation. "I am glad," she said softly. Ethan looked at her hand, then up into her eyes. "Leora, you can stay as long as you want. But I want you to know you're not something I own. You're someone I respect." Leora blinked slowly, her expression unreadable. Then she said quietly, "This is the first place where I was told that." Ethan did not know how to answer, so he simply nodded. Leora turned and walked back toward her room, but just before she entered, she paused and looked back at him. "Good night, Ethan." He smiled warmly. "Good night, Leora." Ethan woke early the next morning to the soft hum of the station's engines. Sunlight filtered weakly through the viewport, catching dust in sparkling lines across the floor. He stretched and walked to the kitchen, surprised to find Leora already preparing breakfast. She moved with quiet precision, her hands gentle as she handled the utensils. The aroma of freshly synthesized protein bread filled the small room. "Good morning," Ethan said, his voice low. "You're up early." "I like to begin my day with order," Leora replied, her tone calm but warm. "It helps me think clearly," Ethan smiled. He had noticed how focused she was, always learning, observing, and trying to understand every process on the station. She was not just a companion. She was a problem solver, someone who improved every task she touched. He took a seat at the table as she placed a warm plate in front of him. "Thank you," he said, surprised at how natural it felt to speak these words. Leora merely nodded and returned to her own breakfast, a small portion of nutrient gel. He watched her for a moment, noting the way her silver-blue skin shimmered in the light, the careful way she moved. It made him realize how much he had underestimated the depth of her being. She was more than a quiet helper. She had a mind and a heart of her own. After breakfast, they went to check the cargo hauler's fuel systems. Ethan showed her the various components, explaining how energy flows through the reactors, and Leora listened intently. Her curiosity was genuine, not just formal interest. Occasionally, she asked questions that surprised him, questions he had never considered before. She would suggest alternate connections, adjustments to improve efficiency, or ways to balance the energy distribution. Ethan could not help but feel impressed. This was no ordinary companion. She was smart, careful, and had a unique perspective that complemented his own. By mid-afternoon, they finished their checks and returned to the main control room. Ethan expected Leora to retreat to her quarters, but she lingered near the console, watching him as he inputted data. "Would you like to pilot the hauler?" he asked, half joking. "I would like to learn," she said, her voice steady. "If it is acceptable to you, and of course," he said, smiling. "Come here." She stepped forward, her hands resting lightly on the controls. Ethan guided her, showing how each lever and button influenced the ship. Leora absorbed every detail with surprising speed, her natural aptitude evident. Within an hour, she could maneuver the ship as well as he could, responding instinctively to small shifts in energy and weight. When she finally relaxed back into her seat, she smiled softly, almost shyly. "You are good at this," Ethan said. "Better than I expected." Leora tilted her head. "You are patient with me. That makes learning easier." The two of them laughed quietly. It was the first time Ethan realized how comfortable their companionship had become. He no longer felt awkward around her. There were no pretenses, no rules of ownership, just two beings learning, working, and sharing time together. A few days later, a warning alarm blared across the station. Ethan and Leora rushed to the main viewport, where a small pirate ship had approached the docking bay. Its hull was battered, its markings crude. Ethan's heart raced. He had heard rumors of pirate activity in this sector, but had never expected an encounter this close. "They want the alien," one of the automated security systems said, recognizing Leora's species. "Do not resist." "Compliance is advised," Ethan froze. He glanced at Leora. Her eyes were wide but steady. "We're not giving up," he said firmly. "We can handle this." Leora studied him, then nodded. "I will assist you." The pirate ship fired a warning shot and alarms blared. Ethan grabbed a manual override panel while Leora moved to the secondary console. Together they worked in perfect coordination. Ethan rerouted energy to the shields while Leora calculated the optimal trajectory to evade incoming fire. Their movements were synchronized almost instinctively, as if they had been training for this moment for weeks. The pirates, expecting easy compliance, were caught off guard. Ethan and Leora's combined strategy allowed the hauler to dodge several shots. Then the pirates attempted to board, and Ethan prepared to defend the airlock. Leora, sensing the danger, stepped forward. She placed her hands on a control pad and activated a defensive system she had studied while exploring the station. A powerful sonic pulse surged through the corridor, temporarily disabling the pirate boarder systems. They retreated, screaming in confusion, giving Ethan and Leora a chance to escape. When the alarm finally ceased, Ethan slumped in his chair, exhausted. Leora remained standing, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she turned to him. "Why did you risk yourself?" she asked softly. "It would have been easier to comply." Ethan shook his head, trying to catch his breath. "Because you're not property. You're important to me. I couldn't let them take you." Leora blinked slowly. There was a hint of emotion in her eyes, something Ethan had not seen before. "Important," she repeated, almost as if testing the word on her tongue. I am grateful." They spent the rest of the evening reviewing their systems, but neither spoke much. The quiet between them was comfortable, a bond deepening without the need for words. Leora cleaned the panels while humming softly, and Ethan fixed small mechanical issues. Both moved with a newfound rhythm, a sense of trust and understanding growing stronger. In the days that followed, Ethan decided to make the station more comfortable for her. He installed soft lighting that could mimic the bioluminescent glow of her home oceans, and added a small water chamber for relaxation. Leora, for the first time, seemed genuinely joyful. She would sit by the chamber, dipping her hands in the water and letting her silver-blue skin catch the gentle light. Sometimes she would hum melodies from her home world, and Ethan would listen quietly, feeling a sense of peace he had not known in years. They began taking short delivery missions across nearby asteroid belts. Each trip brought new challenges: meteor storms, unexpected energy surges, and occasional hostile encounters. But together they adapted. Leora's skills complemented Ethan's engineering expertise perfectly. She could predict energy fluctuations and suggest solutions before he even noticed the problem. In return, he taught her about human systems, showing her how to repair hull breaches, navigate trade routes, and maintain engines. Each success, each small victory strengthened their partnership and trust. Other captains began to notice their efficiency and camaraderie. Some sneered, calling it unusual for a human and an alien companion to work so well together. Leora, however, held her ground. "He treats me as an equal," she would say calmly when questioned. "That makes him greater than any captain here." Her words, soft yet firm, silenced critics more often than not. One quiet evening, after a long day of travel, Ethan sat at the control console reviewing fuel readings. Leora approached and leaned slightly against the chair. "Ethan," she said, her voice gentle, "I have been thinking. Why did you buy me if you did not intend to own me?" Ethan looked at her, considering the question. "I was lonely," he said simply, "but I never wanted to own you. I wanted companionship, someone to share life with, not someone to command." Leora studied him for a long moment. Then she placed her hand over his on the console, a subtle gesture of trust and connection. "You are unlike others," she said softly. "I feel happiness here." Real happiness. Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "You're here because you want to be." She nodded slowly, her eyes glinting in the dim light. "And I choose to stay, because this is the first place I have felt safe, valued, and respected." Over the following weeks, they continued to refine the ship, their teamwork flawless. Ethan showed Leora how to personalize parts of the control deck, and she responded by decorating it with glowing aquatic crystals she had salvaged from her travels. The ship began to feel less like a station and more like a home for both of them. Their bond grew deeper, not romantic, not forced, but based on mutual respect, trust, and shared experiences. One day, while preparing for another delivery mission, Leora asked, "Ethan, can we take on more companions? Others like me who need help?" Ethan considered the idea. "We could," he said slowly, "but we have to make sure anyone we bring here is treated fairly. Equal rights, freedom, everything." Her eyes brightened. "Yes, a place where no one is owned. Only partners, that is." "Wonderful." They began planning together, making lists of supplies, accommodations, and training methods. The goal was clear: create a safe space for alien refugees, a ship where every being could live freely, learn, and contribute. Leora's suggestions were invaluable. She proposed communal living areas, specialized workstations for different species, and recreational spaces that mirrored home environments. Ethan implemented each idea with care, grateful for her insight and creativity. Months passed. They took more missions, rescued others in need, and improved their ship continuously. The station became known as a place of safety and innovation. News of the human and his alien companion spread. inspiring other humans and aliens to collaborate in ways they had never tried before. One evening, as they floated above a serene asteroid field, Leora turned to Ethan. "Do you remember when you first bought me?" She asked quietly. Ethan chuckled. "Yes, I wasn't sure if it was right." "And now?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. "Now," he said, looking at her, "I realize I didn't buy a companion.